Hey, this is Mike. A little while back I did a video on the Hatsan 125, 135, and the deal was, can we take the barrel off the gun without taking it apart? So I did a video on that because somebody was asking me about that, and I don't know because I've never done that. I've always taken the guns apart, and I've never had to, say, swap a barrel in order to put a different caliber on, make my gun a different caliber. I basically bought the gun for the caliber that I wanted. So when I did that video, I guess I did the video with the way I take guns apart when the action is apart, and that is by taking the barrel and breaking it open first, then undoing the barrel block bolt, pivot bolt. So I have a guy that's, I think he's in the Netherlands, and I had bought him a Vortex spring, and I made him a spring guide, and I think it was a piston seal, and we shipped it out. And then he was really happy with that spring. But just recently he got in touch with me and he said, hey Mike, by the way, you know, I took my barrel off my Hatsan 125, I think it was, without taking the gun apart, and I didn't have any problems. And at least I didn't have any. He was expecting a lot of issues because in that other video I showed everybody the headaches you could run into, and that was now due because I mentioned to break the barrel to try to take the tension off the spring jam first, and apparently doing that actually puts more tension on the spring jam. Now, maybe a big difference because when I was doing it, I usually don't have the guts in. It's all out. There is no tension. So apparently, you know, there's one issue that caused me to have a mistake, but you can do this. So I'm going to do it real quick, just as a show and tell. Now the thing about this, I don't really recommend doing it. If you can take your gun apart, if you're up to speed on all that, that's what I recommend doing. But if not, you know, this can be done. I'm just old-fashioned that way, but let's do it. I have the little small bolt off, right? This bolt's been broken before, so it's not going to be on there as tight as they normally are from the factory. So I'm just going to unscrew it. I'm not even going to use the regular driver that I normally would make because I don't have to, you know, have the chisel because, like I said, the bolt's loose. So let me take this off. Now you won't see anything up close, but show and tell is nice. People want to see stuff, so let's just do it and get it over with. We're here in Billings, Montana, and we had our snow already this year. So here's the bolt. It's already ready to come out. I just need to be able to grab it, and so there it is. And then we're going to take the gun, carefully pull it apart. Now, you know what I said before, what one guy can do another guy can't. You always have little issues sometimes. Maybe your gun's going to have real tight forks. The forks on this aren't too tight, and it has one washer. So there it was. I took it off without undoing the action, and hey, did that seem easy? Maybe it did, but I still don't recommend doing it. I recommend guys going through, learning how to take their guns apart, learning how to work on them, and do all that stuff. But let's put it back real quick. So you're going to have to put the cock and arm in there into the slot. It's a little tricky when it's upside down. So she's in. Then you're going to have to get your friction ring and find the side that it goes on, and that would be the reverse side here, of course. Friction rings, when they're brand new, have a little edge on them, so that edge is easily worn out, but that edge would fit into the ring on the barrel block, and that will help you if you center it and get it in there right to keep it in position as you try to put this back. Now somebody out there may have a tight fork and you're not going to be able to do it so hot. So now trying to put it back, it's, you know, obviously your gun's broke open, but you really almost have to put it back going straight in, and that's going to kind of look like this. Let me get it in line first. So it's almost in, but if you turn around, you'll see the gap where the barrel block is. So we're not quite there yet. So I jostled it. I don't know if you heard that little click, but you can see by the breech opening. Now the breech end is tight. This is a little bit of a pain, but actually these guns are a pain altogether. So what I'm going to do is take my tapered punch. I can't really tell looking through the hole. And I'm going to stick it in the hole, wiggle it around. Now that should take and center that washer for you. And then I'm going to pull it around like this and carefully put the gun down, pull the punch out. I just lost it, just like that. Let's see what we got. Well, let's go find out. We may be on. Like I said, I don't really recommend doing this, but it can be done. So to put it back, you're going to need to wiggle a little bit, just slightly. And then once the bolt drops down, it'll hit the top of those threads. You should be able to thread it in. So let's do that. Well, she's not wanting to thread in, so that means we got to push it back out and wiggle it around a little bit more and get that to line up better. See, and that's the issue, so you're going to have to play around. This is really kind of a pain. Because you're kind of fighting the spring jam and everything else. Let's see what we have that time. Nope. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so it can be done, but I don't recommend doing it this way. To each his own. But anyway, she's back in there, and that's it. So while we're here, let's talk about these Hatsan guns. We have apparently some issues with the aftermarket seals. Now, is it the vendors that are making the seals, or is it the guns themselves? Well, let's talk about that real quick. Like again, I get people telling me different things. You wouldn't believe some of the stuff that I get on the YouTube channels. So here we go. You get a guy who's working on a gun, buy some aftermarket seals, right? Now we tell everybody when you buy a Hatsan, go through it, change the spring, put the better aftermarket spring in there, lube it up properly, right? Ream it out real good, all the stuff that you normally do to your air gun. And the reason we tell them to take the piston seal out is because normally they're undersized, normally they will burn up. Well, here's the thing now, the aftermarket seals have not been working out. I've been getting reports of that. A friend of mine's been working with these things and he's been having the same problems. Trust me, he's been through it for a month now, and finally he got fed up where he just wound up putting back the original factory piston seal, the cheap one that burns up, and bingo, his feet per second went right back up to where they normally were. So he gets the aftermarket seal and he's not getting his feet per second. He tries another aftermarket seal, same deal. What's going on here? Well, apparently it could either be in the receiver or it's in that seal, but the guys who make the seals pretty much are sticking to their guns saying, it ain't us. Maybe it's Hatsan. Maybe they're not making them like they should be. Maybe it's that particular receiver. Look, I don't know. All I know is it's been happening a lot lately. So, at any rate, now the question was, hey, the Hatsan seal, for what it's worth, actually gave you the feet per second. What if, because we're putting the different lubes in the receivers now, what if that Hatsan seal doesn't no longer burn up because it's not being shot and the air chamber doesn't have that factory oil lube that they use, creating that heat and then burning up that seal. What if the new stuff that you use to work in your air chamber, whether it be burnished moly or another type of lube, what if that doesn't burn up the Hatsan seal? And what if you could just buy a Hatsan seal and get your feet per second and not have to worry about it? So look, all I'm saying is if you're working on your gun and you buy an aftermarket seal and you say, geez, I'm lacking 30 feet per second here, I'm lacking 50 feet per second, you know, and if your actual Hatsan factory seal looks fairly good, you know, they never do anyway, they're always kind of crummy looking, but put it back in and see if that doesn't jump your feet per second back up, and see where you're at on that. And look, if you're using a different lube, try using the factory seal. Buy a new one if something's wrong with it. See if that doesn't do it for you. I'm just saying this is what we found. We don't understand. Are they making them wrong, or did they change something at the factory? Guys have been having issues with that, and it's quite annoying. You know, you put a lot of time and effort into working on that gun. You pull your hair out because now you're not getting what you should have been getting. What do you do? So anyway, I'm just saying try that out. And if that works for you, and if you have switched that lube around, buy a couple Hatsan piston seals. See if they don't stand up to the new type of lube that you used. If they don't burn up, well then you're good to go. And maybe they'll start making a seal that you can take down. Maybe there's variances in these guns. I don't know. I'm just saying that's one of the things you can look into. But later on today, I have to make a spring guide. Let's talk about another air gun issue. I have to make another spring guide. Apparently, I had a guide that I sold a Weinrock 95 to. It was brand new to me, and I bought that off of a member who was basically Michael Perquette. Hey, how you doing? We're talking about your air gun. So let's talk about that real quick. So Mike, yeah, we email a lot, and we share. Great guy. He sold me his 95-22, and he had problems with it before he sold it to me. And the dealer, he had to send it back. I think his spring broke, so they put another spring in there. And then I don't know what the deal is, but Mike's pretty much a PCP guy, if I remember correctly. So he wound up apparently selling that gun to me. I never got to shoot it. And apparently when I had sold the gun to another guy, he was new to air guns. And I said, hey, I'll tell you what you should do is go buy yourself a Weinrock 95 and spare yourself all the aggravation. You're probably going to need to do a little bit to it to, you know, depends how it comes from the factory, but you'll be getting a good gun. But he said, hey, I want a 22. And so the more I thought about it, I thought, well, I have one. I'm not really, yeah, I'll sell you mine. Why not? So I sold him that gun, and he got the gun. Sure enough, he opens it up, and it looks great. It looks like it was fairly new, other than a little bit of stuff that I described to him. There was a mark on the barrel. I let him know about that. So he goes to actually shoot the gun, and a little while afterwards, he can't even cock it anymore. The gun will not engage, and the trigger was hanging up or something like that. So Murphy's Law, right? Told him, hey, send it back to me. I will go through the gun. I'll put a Hornet spring in there, see how the piston seal looks, and go through the gun for him, properly lube it, and mail it back. If he could just be kind enough to pay for the parts. Basically giving him a tuned gun back. And that's just the way it is, you know. So the moral of the story is you never know, and I'm not blaming Mike Paquette. You know, it's costing me money now, and time, but maybe Mike doesn't know either. So apparently what I'm thinking is that when he had sent it back to the dealer, they put that new spring in there, and it sounds to me like obviously they have too much going on, so now the spring will not cock because there's too much going on in there. And now it's causing an issue. So I'm just saying, here I am. I'm the second guy on the chain, and I am going to do and man up and take care of this issue once and for all for this guy who's new to air guns. But anyway, that's just it. I just wanted to share that information because I get a lot of guys telling me stories through the YouTube channel. You just wouldn't believe it. But there's people out there who just do these deals, and then I got a guy who got a rifle, and the rifle was supposed to have beautiful bluing and all this other nonsense, and he gets the gun, and lo and behold, it doesn't look anything like what was in the item described. Now he's getting attacked from the guy who sold it to him and all this nonsense, and that just shouldn't be. Guys, you got to man up and do what's right in this sport, just like you got to do what's right in the rest of your life. So with that said, let's move on. We'll get back to our original discussion here. You can change the barrel without taking it apart. Do I recommend it? No. Am I an expert? No. We all make mistakes. You learn as you go. You share as you go if you can. And that's it. So this is Mike saying have a great day and be safe, and see you next time. I got a guide to make for this guy, and I got to email him and let him know that it's going to be done. Take care.